Hi, this is Bob, and I'm going to show you a little bit about what I learned about taking apart a 2007 Acura TL. Now, this vehicle had 137,000 miles on it. I think it had never been flushed. And what we've got here is, and this is a lot on the web about what happens here. This is the transmission cooling line, and what happens is, as you can see, it comes right away. This is steel, and it's being put up against aluminum, and it corrodes very quickly, and then one day it pops out. So what you get is you start to get a reduction in the amount of transmission power that you have because your transmission fluid's leaking out, and then one day you'll reach back down here where you see the leak and pop. This will come out, and you will also get all the blue antifreeze along with it. So there's a lot of information about that on the web. The second thing I'd like to tell you that I learned is these 10mm bolts in the shroud, right? These two up here, and then what would ultimately be these two up here, come completely out of the radiator. And that then gives you a little bit of wiggle room. But the important thing to learn here, or remember here, is that these 10mm down here, as you can see, they corrode very, very easily. And what I did was I put an 11mm on it, and I got all the corrosion off, and then I put a 10mm on it, and I moved it out. You don't have to remove these. They slide in, right? The shroud slides in there. So if you can just get them turned a little bit, you can pull these up. And what you'll find out is that the electrical connection inside the shroud is keeping it in there, right? And what I did was I learned this trick on the internet somewhere. I took a small 1/4-inch socket, and I was able to push in. I was able to get my hand down there and push in on the clip, which allowed it to come out. And then once that comes out, I took the fan shroud out on both sides, and that gave me great access to both the inflow and the outflow of the coolant, and the ability to disconnect the transmission cooling lines. And what I'd like to point out is you can see how long the ribs are in this transmission cooling line. So it's extremely important to make sure that you get your clamp all the way over here on your hose, because otherwise it's going to make, if you just pull it back this far, it's still going to catch this top rib up here, and it's going to make it very difficult to remove. You're going to wonder what the heck's going on. One more thing I'd like to point out, make this as short as possible. You can see that the bottom clamp is extremely corroded, just like the screws are. And by the way, I put a little deep creep on those just so they work better on the new one. So what I'm doing on this one is I'm going to take the one that isn't corroded from the top up here. I'm going to replace it down here. I'm going to use a pull clamp on the top, because you don't want to use a pull clamp at the bottom. You're just going to end up, if this ever happens again, being impossible to get the radiator out. Okay, thank you. These are the things that I learned, and there's so much information about how to pull one of these things out, but my advice to you is take the fans off first, get the access to the transmission cooling lines into the in and out of the coolant, and then remove the shrouds just a little bit. You don't have to take these all the way out. Remove the shrouds, and then once you're in there, then you have all the access you need. Thank you very much.